Welcome everyone. This is Bad for Enterprise, attacking Bring Your Own Device Enterprise Mobile Security Solutions. We're in Mandalay EF with Vincent Tan. A couple quick announcements before we begin, probably stuff you've all heard before, but just a reminder, stop by the business hall located in Bayside AB. Blackhat Arsenal always has really cool stuff. That's up on Palm Foyer on level 3, so check that out. And the Arsenal reception is going to be at 5 o'clock tonight. If you haven't picked up merchandise today and you want some, today's your last chance, so visit the Blackhat Swag and Bookstore. Also, there's a really neat Kali Linux lab going on in Mandalay Bay A, so check that out if you get a chance. Remember to put your phone on vibrate, and if you have questions at the end of the presentation, there are 6 microphones scattered throughout the room, so try to use those for your questions instead of just shouting them out. But with that, please welcome me in welcoming our speaker, Vincent Tan.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Good afternoon, Blackhat. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend my talk. My name is Vincent, and today I'll be sharing with you some of the things I've learned when attacking BYOD solutions. So let's get to it. The global market for BYOD mobility and enterprise mobility is expected to quadruple in size over the next couple of years, hitting $284 billion by 2019. BYOD software is used by some of the largest organizations and governments around the world. I've taken some time over the past year researching into the advanced functionality that these applications are using. The result of my research is an approach to defeating BYOD and advanced iOS security mechanisms in an easy and effective manner. I'm from sunny Singapore, and I'm currently a security consultant at a small startup, Vantage Point Security, and have a wonderful job of being paid to hack stuff for the past 4 years. Personally, my main focus has been on mobile, but I'm also interested in other sorts of weird stuff like RFID, hardware, and ICS SCADA. Why mobile? I see mobile devices fully replacing our PCs, laptops in the coming future. We'll start to have phones with faster processors, better graphics, more RAM, and disk space. We'll see things like Microsoft Continuum and Ubuntu convergence start to mature and be used widely. But hacking mobile devices is a little different from traditional desktop operating systems. There's a smaller attack surface and different threat vectors. Everything is moving to our smartphones. In this IoT age, everything is becoming smart and connected to your phone. From the lights in your house to the lock on your door, the system that powers your car. So this is the time to be hacking mobile. What I will be discussing today is in regards to iOS devices only. Everything mentioned here should be possible against Android devices. I just haven't tested it yet. I'll start by giving a short overview of iOS applications and how I classify them into 2 categories. We'll then move on to what is BYOD, why do organizations use BYOD, and who are some of the organizations that use BYOD. Then I'll talk about the security features of BYOD solutions and introduce Good Technology, who is good, and what is a good BYOD solution. We'll then move into looking at iOS jailbreaks and how to go about attacking BYOD solutions. Finally, I will walk you through breaking each of the security features of a BYOD solution. There are over 1.4 million applications each in the Apple App and Google Play Store, with approximately 10% of those apps classified under the business category. A recent survey done showed that 35% of organizations have an enterprise app store, and each organization having its own 100 apps to deal with. I divide current mobile apps into 2 separate functionality categories, simple and complex. Typical mobile applications can be native or HTML5 based. Simple applications interact via service calls such as JSON or SOAP to a web server backend. Complex functionality applications, however, make use of advanced capabilities of the device. An example of such applications are soft token applications such as Google Auth or RSA Secure ID, payment applications such as Apple Pay or PayPal, MDM applications, Good, mobile iron, AirWatch, or home automation via the Apple HomeKit. So who here is working for an organization that has adopted BYOD or is using an MDM application such as Good? Okay. BYOD adoption has grown because there's an increasing trend towards employee-owned devices, mobile phones, laptops, etc. In the apparent 2016 Executive Enterprise Mobility Report, a survey of executives have shown that protecting their organization's internal network and infrastructure for mobile-based threats and compromised mobile devices is their top concern. These are the key reasons as to why they implement BYOD solutions. An interesting point to note is that concern about security practices within the app development team ranks at the bottom. As an offensive security guy or to an attacker, any organization without a secure SDLC approach to developing any application is making my job easy. How prevalent is it? Research done in 2015 shows that 74% of organizations are already using or planning to adopt in the next 12 months. BYOD solutions are in use by telcos, banks, governments, organizations big and small all over the world. BYOD is the buzzword. Security of BYOD is termed enterprise mobility security. So vendors are selling these MDM solutions to organizations as an impenetrable armor that will protect their sensitive data from malicious attackers. So what does an EMS solution actually provide? Basically, it controls the flow of corporate information to and from devices. For example, if you leave a company, the company can then wipe the BYOD device, corporate information gone. Or BYOD policies can also prevent you from forwarding emails to unknown domains. Here's a list of features that BYOD vendors sell to customers, be it Good, AirWatch, Mobile Iron, or what have you. Compromise detection is the key and most important feature that these BYOD vendors provide. It should be a detection mechanism that is more complete than simple jailbreak detection. There are numerous checks that can be done, and they should all be performed. Other than verifying the integrity of the device, it should also be able to verify the integrity of the application. Their entire security solution rests on this, and they have got to improve on it. Besides compromise detection, there are two other key features of an EMS solution, that is application continuization and application VPN. Application continuization further adds a layer of encryption to the application and is a term that encompasses features such as device locking and wiping, encryption, and application data loss prevention policies. Application VPN creates a per-app encrypted communication tunnel such that data passing over the internet is encrypted and cannot be intercepted. In my talk today, I've chosen to use the Good Enterprise Mobility Suite. It was recently acquired by BlackBerry, and as of the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant for Enterprise Mobility Management 2016, Good is still ranked in the top 5 solution providers. The Good Dynamics Platform and Good Collaboration Suite, GCS, is the successor to Good for Enterprise, for those of you whom are familiar. Other than the standard email client and MDM functionality, the Good Collaboration Suite is built on the Good Dynamics Platform, which allows organizations to build secure enterprise applications and distribute them internally. The Good Collaboration Suite is also more feature-rich as compared to GFE. GCS uses Good Dynamics as a common platform and allows for shared services between GCS and custom enterprise apps. So, I'm here today talking about attacking iOS devices, and you must be sitting there thinking you need root to do all of this. In prep for this talk, I've had to update this slide 3 times. We've seen time and time again each iOS device being jailbroken. History repeats itself. Developers either constantly make the same mistakes or do not know how to properly patch bugs. This could be because they do not understand the root cause of the bug, or maybe because they don't know how to code securely. For those interested, Stefan Esser has a great presentation on the failure of Apple on properly patching bugs. So it is not inconceivable that there is an iOS jailbreak in the hands of governments or corporations out there. Now, would attacks be possible against a non-jailbroken device? Yes. I've been able to successfully mount the attacks that I'll show later against a Good Work app installed on a non-jailbroken iOS device. So now we know that it's possible to exploit and gain root on your phone. But how do I actually get a hold of your phone? Think NSA, CIA, MSS. Dropout Jeep was a program developed by the NSA TAO to automatically exploit your phone and install a software implant. This program could be installed at charging stations at the airport or at a shopping mall. Lost devices. The statistics on phone loss is huge. 1.4 million phones are lost annually and 3.1 million stolen in the USA alone. How about remote or drive-by attacks? Jailbreakme.com last used in 2011. We are seeing less of this publicly now because remote access bugs are hugely valuable. But it has been demonstrated by various people in the community that it is still possible. Governments around the world are offering lots of money for such exploits. iOS is worth the most. In a New York Times article in 2013, an iOS bug sold for $500,000 US. So to iterate, your phone is entirely hackable, just no one is doing it publicly. How am I going to be attacking these EMS and iOS hardened applications? The conventional method of setting a proxy and using BURP would fail. Mobile devices are becoming ever more so advanced. The time has come when conducting a mobile pen test is not as easy or as straightforward as it was. My approach is to change the environment in which the application runs. It's not something new. I'm just doing it on iOS. Good dynamics-based applications were introduced to us by a client. The project was assigned to my fellow colleague, and after a couple of assessments, I've heard them saying what a pain it was to test the application properly. They went through the normal route of setting a proxy on a phone and waiting for traffic through BURP. Nothing happened. To me, I was thinking it can't be that bad, right? I requested to be assigned on the next Good Dynamics project, and all my work has resulted in me standing here today. So, how do you change your environment? This is done through the use of a dynamic library. For those of you in the Mac world, you know this as a dilib, and for those in the Microsoft world, it's like a DLL. I created a dynamic library and named it Swizzler. I created my own tool such that I could learn from what's going on and how to solve different problems that I encountered. Secondly, there wasn't any other tool out there at that point in time which provided me the features that I needed to do my testing. What is Swizzler? Swizzler is a dynamic library that is loaded before any application is started and makes use of Cydia substrate to assist in hooking functions. It's a compilation of pre-written hooks to defeat jailbreak detection, defeat anti-debugging, hooking of multiple libraries such as OpenSSL, crypto libraries, or iOS frameworks. What else can you control? By controlling the environment, we can pretty much defeat any security feature that is currently implemented by EMS solutions, evading jailbreak detection, defeating anti-debugging, preventing device lock or wipe. You can also control GPS data, voice or telephony recording, random number generators, touch ID, keylogging, screen scraping. Analyzing EMS solutions and hardened applications is like peeling an onion. You have to peel away layer by layer to reveal the core, and as you peel away each layer, you will then be able to find out if you end up crying or end up with a rotten core. So let me tell you a story. CFO of Northwind Traders, Alice, left the bar late Friday evening, hopped into an Uber, headed home to a New York apartment, and unknowingly left her mobile device behind upon reaching her destination. Unbeknownst to her, she was being watched. A camera attached to the rear windshield was recording when she unlocked her device and viewed her emails. Northwind was on the verge of signing a new oil pipeline deal that was worth billions over the next decade. Bob, part of a competing firm, paid the driver for the mobile device and the video recording. Since Bob already had knowledge of Alice's phone PIN, his first target was to jailbreak the device. Having a zero-day bot from a certain unnamed group, this would be easy to accomplish. Next was to defeat the jailbreak detection techniques. For those of you who are wondering, this application was downloaded July 2016, and as you can see, it's not too difficult to bypass the jailbreak detection mechanisms that are put in place by vendors. Now we have successfully unlocked, jailbroken, and defeated jailbreak detection on the enterprise device. So how is jailbreak detection done? Most of the times, applications detect a jailbroken device by simply looking at a blacklist of files. Here you can see that the code checks if Cydia or the SSH daemon exist. However, we can easily bypass these checks by hooking, in this case, the fopen function, by comparing the path that is being checked and returning that it does not exist if it matches our own blacklist. You can also detect a jailbroken device by calling prohibited functions. On non-jailbroken devices, there are certain functions that is not available to developers. It is possible to check if a device is jailbroken by calling these functions and see if they work. There's a whole assortment of jailbreak detection techniques. Jailbreak detection can involve a whole lot of different checks, and vendors can use an exponential number of combinations of those checks. So does this mean we have to spend hours, days, or even weeks to find out how to defeat the jailbreak detection? No, because developers are predictable and they like to keep code structured. Most of the time, security is implemented as an afterthought. In the MDM solutions that I have analyzed, Good, Symantec, Microsoft, AirWatch, jailbreak detection can be traced back to a single Objective-C or C++ method. The Good Dynamics framework has implemented and aptly named it tamper detection method. Each of the MDM security features in the GD framework can be traced back to a C++ method. We can easily bypass password attempt limitations, prevent wiping or locking of an app or device, or just basically disabling the entire compliance checks as a whole. The video recording was good, but part of Alice's email password was obstructed, and the only way Bob could gain access was to brute force similar passwords. As shown previously, to allow multiple attempts at guessing a user's password, all one had to do was hook a function. Now we've got the container password. Time to move on to ensuring that the app is not deleted and is still available when we need it. It was late Friday night, and Bob was almost certain that the IT department of Northwind was not working. But he needs to take precautions and ensure that he would have access to the device even if the company tried to disable or wipe the device. Pretty much all EMS solutions have the feature to wipe the device or lock the application if the device goes missing or is not used for a certain period of time. This is known as the application lock and device wipe feature. An interesting thing to note is that when an app is locked from the server side, it still functions as per normal and is able to establish network connections back to the corporate intranet. Lastly, we target the application containerization. Now that Bob has disabled the device wipe feature and knows the password to access the application, it was time to figure out what data is stored on the device. In the case of Good, AES 256 was used to encrypt the files. It took me a while to reverse how the file system was encrypted and how to decrypt the data. I have come up with a script to decrypt the app data, and as you can see here, features were added to Swizzler to aid in the ease of figuring out what the decryption keys are and what data was being encrypted or decrypted. Fantastic. Now we've got full control over everything and we can view all the application files on the device. What else can we do? Let's go through the application files to see if there's anything interesting. Going through these files, Bob found something interesting. The M container, also known as the management folder, stores all the files that is needed for the application to initialize. There's a provision data.config file, and apparently in this file, there's a listing of all GD applications that an organization uses. It can also be seen that there's a list of application servers that are linked to each enterprise app. This is a recording I made that shows the decryption of the application container. The GD startup data file, The GD startup data file shown here contains the application policy and hash of the user password amongst other things. In the management folder, we see that there is a provision data.config file. And as you can see here, this is a list of applications that the organization has developed and is using. It also shows the internal servers that these applications connect to. How is this file significant? For every app that is developed by an organization, it would most likely have an app server that it communicates back to. Take, for example, an MNC that is using Good throughout their organization all over the world. A compromise of one device could possibly allow an attacker to map out their internal network and gain a better understanding of their infrastructure. Additionally, as you will see later, having this information will allow us to search for and compromise servers throughout the internal network. Now, we've come to the most interesting section of the presentation, attacking the corporate network. Here, I will detail how I went about analyzing traffic between a GD app and the enterprise application server, and how we can gain deeper access into the corporate network by using information gathered from the container. This is the most interesting feature of the Good solution, and my entire Good project started because of this. GD applications communicate with the enterprise application servers via a custom TCP implementation. Setting the HTTP proxy configuration on iOS devices would not be of any use. The key feature that enterprises using EMS solutions such as Good or AirWatch or what have you is that they can develop enterprise mobile applications which are able to communicate back to the corporate intranet without needing to expose the application servers to the internet. This form of communication has been marketed to organizations and their project managers as hacker-proof. Both the mobile app and the server cannot be attacked because there's no way to view the traffic or communicate with the application server. In the case of Good, traffic from the GD application is tunneled across the internet via the proprietary Good Relay protocol. This is the application VPN feature. The connection will reach the Good proxy server. This is the only server that the organization exposes to the internet. It acts as a router for incoming traffic. When a connection is initiated from a GD application, traffic will travel across the application VPN and reach the Good proxy server. The Good proxy server will then inspect the traffic and send it on to the appropriate backend application server. The enterprise application servers are never exposed to the internet. So how then, you ask, do I proxy the application traffic and communicate with the application server? I dug into the SDK, which is freely available to download for anyone. The GD developer documentation lists two ways that developers can use to initiate HTTP communications. The first is the GD HTTP requests class provided by the GD SDK. This class has numerous methods to ease and simplify a developer's life. Methods to send files, create post requests, and SSL pinning is provided. What's also provided is a method named enable HTTP proxy. The next method uses native URL loading functions provided by Apple that is available to any iOS application. Communication back to the enterprise server is then handled transparently. There are two things which we need to achieve. First is to figure out how to intercept the traffic. This diagram basically shows the goal: to intercept the network traffic and understand what is going on between the app and the server. To achieve this, I've added into Swizzler two ways to proxy traffic. As mentioned, GD HTTP requests is a class that is part of the GD SDK. To enable GD HTTP request proxy in Swizzler, enter the Good Dynamics menu and flick the GD HTTP request proxy switch. Enter the IP address and port of your proxy and restart the application. Good Dynamics applications can also utilize native URL loading system to communicate with servers that are behind the enterprise firewall. This is an alternative approach to using GD HTTP requests. NSURL connection and the newer recommended NSURL session is the default method of network communication that is used by iOS applications. They have been configured to follow the proxy settings on the iOS device, and we have to hook the class and the method to get it to send traffic to our proxy. So this is what we are trying to achieve in the end. Traffic is sent from the app, intercepted by our proxy, BURP, and then sent on back into the internal server. Oops. Remember how I mentioned that these application servers are not exposed to the internet? So how can we send traffic to it? In the essence of time, I am showing a recording that I've done last night. So here, I've created a Good Dynamics app for this presentation, which will just call a simple URL. As you can see here, I'm setting up the NSURL proxy. Starting the app. And you can see in BURP, we have traffic. So this is great, but as I mentioned previously, the application servers are not exposed to the internet. So I've deliberately configured the internal and internal 2 domains on my DNS server to point to an internal IP and expose it to the internet such that I can ping them and show you that they are pointing to an internal IP address. So how then do we send the proxy traffic back to the corporate intranet? My idea was to run a web server on the iOS device, which would run whenever the application loads. So now we configure BURP to point the internal and internal 2 URLs to the IP address of my iOS device. And as you can see in the third request, we get a response. This traffic is now traveling over the application VPN. Let's try it on Firefox. Firefox has been configured to use my BURP proxy. And we can see that internal 2 works. From the config file that we found just now, we know that there's an additional URL, internal.vtky.net. Let's try accessing that. Here we see a simple web login, and we can see that traffic is going through the application VPN. Now we fire up SQL map and let it run. As most of you are familiar, internal application servers are not properly secured. So this is not something far-fetched. Uploading. And we got a shell. Good. So, is the above scenario that I've provided far-fetched? Maybe, but it's certainly not impossible. How about other scenarios like insider attacks, where none of the local attacks need to be performed? an organization's employee would already be able to provide access to the device and the container password. Drive-by attacks and malware such as jailbreakme.com is still possible. The link above is a video that demonstrates that it is possible to exploit and jailbreak the iOS device remotely. You can't protect against everything all the time, but here are some recommended takeaways that organizations can implement to better enhance security. The human factor is always the weakest link in the security chain. Education of employees on forms of attacks that can take place, using of USB chargers, malicious websites, or theft of device. Organizations should also ensure that application web services used by enterprise apps go through the same secure development lifecycle and same rigorous security testing as those apps that are in use by the public. An organization would have to apply the same level of security to all its intranet application servers as the internet-facing servers, because an attacker would be able to exploit any weaknesses as though those servers are on the internet. Lastly, if your EMS solution doesn't provide good enough compromise detection, then you can always implement your own. So, some takeaways. Not always attacking the application, changing the environment works as well. Because of the way mobile applications are designed and run, the restriction of access to the underlying operating system, the mobile application implicitly trusts that the operating system is secure. As we move further and further away from the desktop, mobile applications will incorporate more features which will in turn increase its complexity. The time has come when conducting a mobile pen test is not as straightforward or as easy as it was. I've shown you any detection or BYOD security feature sets can be bypassed easily. This will always be a game of cat and mouse. New detection mechanisms will be effective until a new bypass is developed. Because jailbroken devices give hackers more control than the apps have themselves, the odds are always in favor of the attackers. BYOD solutions and policies can help, but such attacks will always be possible. By setting the bar higher and higher, this cat and mouse game will ultimately lead to more sophisticated detection mechanisms and will get harder and harder to bypass. Test everything. Allow your security testers to break stuff. Conduct targeted red team scenarios and do not blindly trust what vendor sells you. Last but not least, Swizzler is open sourced. Please have a look and let me know what you think. Thank you very much.